Okay, so now how many clips? This is the third one, I guess. Probably, I don't know. Uh, I don't want you to sit through everything in one go, so I separate the clips into a shorter one. There is a lot to unpack here, even though I try to write the comment down here. First thing is I install what is called GitHub Workflow. Where is that? GitHub Workflow, GitHub Action, sorry. I install this GitHub Action. So the idea is this is supposed to help me detecting errors in the file, and I should be able to execute the action or check my action from here. And even these parameters, see? So I don't need to go to GitHub website. I think you need to install Git repository, Git SCM, in order to have this because it doesn't work previously. Right, so in the GitHub action, over here in my workflow, I could open the workflow. Yeah, right. And I could trigger the workflow. This one in build test, I have this on, which means when will this workflow get triggered? This one doesn't, I use on workflow dispatch, which means I will do it manually. Manually is here. Or I can go to GitHub page and click some button. Okay, let's read this one first because we want to integrate stuff. In this workflows, I name the workflow so it can name anything. I think without this, it would just use file name as the workflow name. I use this as a run because this is like a template, and every click or every execution it will be one run, just like in the ML flow you can have multiple runs. So here I have many runs. It's supposed to have some name, but in here it doesn't have the name. But in GitHub action, I have my name following by here. So you could name the run differently. There is parameters that you can go search how to get different naming scheme with different variables. As suggested earlier, this is how when this flow get triggered. So you could set this flow to trigger however you want. But what I want is I want this workflow to get triggered when there is a push and with attacks. And this is how the tag should look like. It's using what is called regular expression. So in this mean, the tag must start with V followed by anything. The star here mean anything. Anything is anything. Anything mean this is anything. This is anything. This is anything. This is anything. Anything can have no string, can have any strings, anything. So star mean anything, even nothing is anything. Okay, if you don't understand, go study TOC. This version or this tag has to be follow some scheme. because I will use because of the GitHub says so, it might be in some scheme. I think it has to be version 3.0.1. Yeah, it has to be this scheme. There is even the name of this naming scheme that you have to follow. So if you want to use the tag, then you have to use this accordingly. But if you don't want to use the tag, it's also up to you. In this workflow, there is two jobs. It's called jobs. Just like in Docker Compose, there can be multiple service. In this workflow, there can be multiple jobs. I have this build test job and this deploy job. And this normally jobs can be run parallelly. But I said I want the deploy to be executed depending on the first part, depending on the first. Depending on the build test, sorry, I mute my phone. So, what is the build test? What you have to put on? First, you have to specify the run-ons. This is asking the GitHub to build an environment for you. You could try to test or run this job on Windows environment. I think it can be run on Mac OS environments. I'm not sure, you can check. But since our server is Ubuntu server, so I will run on Ubuntu server. If you don't care the version, just put latest. But you can specify 2022, not 2022.04, 20.04. I think it can be done in 18.04. You can have, you can ask, I think you can ask this as a list. Like this, Windows. Oh, here, yeah. What else I can, yeah, right. This will ensure why you want to do this is if your app has to serve a lot of people on different machine, on different OS, you could test different version of that OS, those OS like this, and make sure and can ensure that your app compatible with those OS. You can even create your own server and ask GitHub workflow to test the app on your server, but we won't go that extreme because we don't even need to, because we already use Docker. But if you don't use Docker, then probably you want to set up your own host. Okay, so they specify which environment you want to use to run this job, and this is a step to do the job. So what you need to know from the beginning is there is two tags. There is use and run, and you can name the task or the step. So with the name, it will name the step. Without the name, it will just name like this. This will be the name. Yeah. So it depends whether you want to name or you don't want to name the step. Use mean I will use the step that already defined by others. So if you want to understand what is this action checkout mean, because of this use tag, you have to go search for this. So this is actions checkout version 3 or version 4, and you have to read through this. What does it mean? And they have with, which means the argument that this action or step want to use. So you have to go through this eventually. since I just want to get the current version, so I don't need to do checkout. I don't need to put anything. Second is because I have to have my .env file. So I have to make one using this so that this person kind enough to build the action that I can just use it. So if you want to understand what are these, then you have to go read the manual from him, from her, from this guy, from this person, from them. Pronunciation. This will create the env file. So this is the key. I can explain what are these, but this is env key, and this will be in the key. It will be the key name. So this will be the key name, and this is the value that I'll use in the key. That's drawn from the secrets. The secret here is from here. Secret, repository secret, ML flow, tracking URI. I can try to change. An app model name over here. Okay. The file name will be .env. The action can fail if the file is empty because I misconfigured something, probably. And I can sort the key, but I don't need to sort the key. I just like that I can sort. Right, so here I get the Git. So imagine that there is a server, an empty server. Then you do this git checkout. So what you get from git checkout is this code without anything in the git ignore, right? So I ignore env, I ignore code models, which is all of these models. Nobody can have these models. So and I cannot do compose up, because if I want to do compose up, I have to have the env. Thus, I have to build the env file. So that is the reason. So just imagine that there is an empty server somewhere. The GitHub set it up for you, and you have to perform these tasks, like the tasks that you should perform in order to run the test. So then I built the Docker image using Docker Compose build. This will use this Docker Compose.yml. So this, like this, it will build the Docker, and then I can run up the Docker using up. -d is for detach, so it's to return you the terminal. All of these tasks can be tried on your computer. Right. So if you could compose up, compose build, compose up -d, then you can try run this on your own computer too, because it's already Docker. Anything, it's supposed, if it's work on your computer, it's supposed to work everywhere. You can, instead of trying to attach your VS Code and execute the code within in the Docker, you can run Docker Compose execute to execute the command. So this is the command Docker Compose execute. This -it is interactive something. You just have to put every time. This is the service name. In my Docker Compose, this is dash. So I have to put dash to point to that container. And this is the command that I want this container to execute. Right? So this is PyTest, and it will run every test file except model staging because I want to do this manually. Then if the test run out successfully, I'm gonna do push the image to Docker Hub. So first I have to log into Docker Hub in the Docker in the GitHub environment, in the GitHub workflow environment. So another secret. I don't even remember what is Docker Hub token. You have to search for it. I think you can read this, and they will nicely guide you what you have to do in order to log in. Yeah. You can follow them. I used to have this build, but I don't anymore because this Docker Compose built the image and the image is already built. So I just commit it out. I need this meta. This meta will create the image name for me with some pattern. I can show you from here. Let me show you what does it do. Over here in build test, in the meta, the result of running those meta is this. So what I want is the tags. The tags here is calculated using the context over here, right? If you go read the metadata action, it will be a little bit confused because I was confused. But what it does is it create a Docker tag. We want to create a Docker tag, and it's translate from these events and reference tag into a Docker tag. Right. Yeah. So that's why I use this tag V star, because we can use this V star as a Docker tag, the image tag in the image name. So I want to create the tags, and the tags we created following this constraint or condition. This is a semver, which is the naming scheme of the version. It's supposed to be V, start with V, followed by three numbers separated by dot, as I told you earlier. And pattern is raw. There can be many patterns. Let me show you different pattern here. It can be many pattern, but I want my version to start with V. So I use raw, which is the entire tag, git tag. If you just root version, then it will just this. Right. So I get the image name and the tags associated with this configuration. And then I want to push my image. I think this will rebuild. Yeah, it will rebuild and rename. It will rebuild. Sorry, this will rebuild. So that's why I removed this. This will rebuild the image following the name. It will build the image following this Docker file. It will do the push because it just push equal to true. And this will use the tag following this meta So these two comes together. If you go read build push action, it will also reference this Docker method. And because you need the image's name, you have to use this one. Otherwise, I'm not sure what image name it will be. I probably want to hide this, but I don't know whether I need to hide this. But if I want to hide this, I can change this into the environment, right? But still I need to have this name anyway. Anyway, so this is packing your code, your app into a Docker image and push it to the Docker hub like we have done before. Previously, what you have done is you go here. Once you build the compose app, changing the image name, you have to find your image over here. Go to some of it, right click and push. This perform that for you automatically once the test is passed. Then this will get executed because this will need the build test to be done, and once the test is done, I am sure that my new Docker name, my Docker image is pushed to the Docker hub. So I will deploy that new version. So that is neat, run on Ubuntu latest, but it can be run on anything. And here, this task or this job will run using the environment production. If I want to deploy to the staging, like if I have one, I can change this to staging and change, and it will just work if I do it correctly. So here in this deploy, it will only have one step. This step will do the shell. You can go read. It's very powerful. So what I want to do, the only thing I want to do is I want to go into my account in the ML2023 server. But in order to do that, I have to go through the proxy, just like we have set it up on your computer. We repeat that process here. So you have to proxy to the server, which is Bazooka, using, and this is the parameters and the keys, which is your private key, actually. And I go to the ML2023. This is host var host here. If I can show you in the GitHub action over here, not variable, environment production here. Host is 2023.cs, which is our server. Proxy host is Bazooka, which is we use as a proxy jump. And with this, I will end up on the ML2023, and I want to run a certain sequence of command, and this is that command. Right, github.ref name will be the tag v.v3.0.11 because of these tag. So I can use this to create a tag, and I have separate Docker compose file in my server. So SSH2M3. And here's st over here, and cat Docker compose over here. So I have separate Docker compose where this one does not have a tag. So this will use so you have to specify the tag like this. So we draw the tag value from here, from here and put it here. So we because of this is one workflow, if we use this tag that we just built and pushed to the Docker Hub, and I will draw the newest one, the newest tag of version of the Docker image from Docker Hub. I have to spec this -f mean I have to specify the Docker Compose file, because I land when I SSH to the server, I will end up in this part. So I can reference to the Docker Compose file using this folder name /Docker Compose, right? So I don't need to cd into the folder and perform this and that. I compose down first because I want to take down the current version, and compose up to get the new to perform the pooling and get a new version. What you can see here is what I want to show you next is here in my folder. My Docker Compose file here is only makes sense in the server, so it's only here. It's not drawing this Docker Compose from the GitHub repository. That's one thing. I used to map the models into the container, but I don't anymore because there is no volumes, and there is this separate .env, which I'm not even sure what are they here, right? So this .env also already exit on the server. So this .env file is not shared anywhere, and this is the step that I have to set up on the server in order for it to be able to deploy, automatic deploy. Because these are the information it needed, and I don't want to share this information to any people outside of this world, and yeah, basically anyone else. So that is the build, test, and deploy. So I should change this name to deploy too. And probably I hope you understand all of these. var host, var proxy host, because this is a variable, but it's depend on the environment. So I have to specify environment here. The secrets also depend on the environment here. You don't need to care how does the GitHub knows which one to use, environment and repository. I think it's used local and global variable resolution, that stuff. That. If you don't understand, just go take a compiler course. Right. So now if I want to show you how is this get executed in action, then I'm going to make a new version of this by adding here. Right, what? Can I, yeah, I can save. Okay. Okay, I don't need to change. Right. So what is need to be done in order to execute this? I can make some change. Because of the implementation currently, I can make change. Go to my GitHub desktop. Let's say I'm not going to make change in Docker file. I'll make a README. I make a commit. I can push, like I used to do every time before. This won't execute or trigger the workflow. because the workflow will get triggered with commit with tags only. So I design it this way. I want it this way. If you don't want it this way, you can change in your workflow. But because I want to be able to make a lot of changes, make a lot of commit before I build one version. So I can make a lot of change here and there, commit, push into the Docker, into a GitHub. And once I'm ready, this is I'm ready. I make a commit, and this commit will create a tag version v 3.0.12. If I use the one that already exists, it would just complain. So you can, so you don't need to care whether it's already exit. Create a tag. I push. When I push, then here in my GitHub, there will be a new flow getting executed. In this flow, there are 2 runs, 2 steps, 2 jobs, and this is what it's already what it is doing, following our steps. I'm sorry, it's past midnight. My brain kind of stopped working. But yeah, it's kind of stopped working. I just wait for this to run. Yes. Yeah. I hope it won't break because I don't in the mode to fix stuff. This is building the image. Yes, this is building the image. But you don't need to sit through this. What I mean is, if you finish your code, you want to publish. Once you push, you can go do something else, close, because this is done in the server, in the GitHub server. I don't need to sit through this. I can close this, turn off my computer, go do something else, and eventually the test will complete, either fail or success. You'll get notification in your email. Normally I get it in the email, but even though you don't get the email, 5-10 minutes later, you can come back and check. So the testing is done very quickly. I don't think, can you see it? Here, it's done here. It's done with some warning. Even though it's some warning, it's fine. But if it break, it will stop here, because it throw into the what is called standard errors. The red text is the standard errors. Now it's pushing the new version because I recognize these lock. Yeah, it's pushing to the new version. So 3.0.12 done. Let's go see in the server. Right, it's composed down. So my okay. I don't know what does it mean. I think my Docker is not running, so it's complaining. I can see Docker images. Great. Here. So yeah, so this is pulling, and I should get my image run. Yeah, because it is complete. So I can go to my, I forget my link. Here is my link. And yeah, so it's work. Very nice. Right, now is the time for you to understand the next part, which is the part of this test model and staging in the next clip.